You're giving it your all in training, but your body's just not bouncing back. It's not recovering from all this hard work you're putting in. Maybe you take a rest day, thinking that's going to fix it, but you go into your next training session and you're still dragging your feet. You still can't hold the right numbers. You're not making progress. It's frustrating. It's infuriating. And believe it or not, I used to be that person. I thought I was someone who trained hard. And God, it just felt like I was just knocking on this door that wouldn't open for me. Maybe it's got to the point now where you're looking at YouTube videos. You actually want to do something about it. And the good news is that what if I told you it's something that you can do and it's something that you can eat? Okay, no, so I'm not going to tell you you've got to buy some gimmicky supplement or some fancy expensive product. No, I can educate you with food and empower you to make some nutritional changes that are going to mean your energy levels rise. You're no longer feeling flat at work. Not just in training, but if you're feeling flat at work, that's not a good sign. We want to do something about it. We want you to have the time and the energy to spend with your family, with your friends, with your loved ones. Okay? And that's the power of food, which I'm going to share with you. So, but let's dive in. I'm going to talk you through how to fuel and recover smarter, right? With some science-backed strategies. No gimmicks. Here we go. So the first thing we need to address with our recovery is sleep. You might be thinking, right, you're a nutritionist. Why are you talking about sleep? The reason I put this up here first, instead of protein, which you're probably expecting, is because our body goes through the vast majority of its recovery processes when we sleep. So if we can do certain strategies, which I'm going to talk you through, to improve our sleep, then you're going to start recovering faster. Okay? As an example here, human growth hormone. That's one of the key things that allows your muscle tissues to remodel, to adapt to all that hard work that you're doing. That peaks when we're sleeping. But if we're sleeping fitfully, if we're not getting high quality sleep, so even if you're like, yeah, I drop off quickly, but you're not getting that right quality, then that growth hormone is going to be impaired. Your recovery is going to be impaired. So what can you do? What's the first thing you should do? Number one, the first thing you should do is sleep wake time. So what I mean by that, and this is the number one thing we can do to really set your circadian clock, which is basically the time that you naturally wake and naturally feel sleepy. If we can set that, you're going to have much improved sleep quality. And it kind of makes sense when you think about it, because your body likes routine, it likes to know what's happening. So if you go to bed at very different times of night, it's not going to be able to get into its rhythm of deep quality sleep, because it's thinking, well, I don't know when I'm going to bed. So if you can set a bedtime, like rebuilding that bedtime for yourself, and have a same wake time most days, 5 or 6 days a week is good. Don't necessarily have to do 7. You might appreciate that lie-in. But if you can be consistent with the 5 or 6 days, having it within half an hour of the timing that you go to bed and wake, you're going to see much improved sleep quality. Okay, that's going to be the first thing. Number 2, in my new pen, caffeine. This is a molecule which is going to impair your sleep quality. One of the things caffeine does is it blocks adenosine receptors. Adenosine is one of the parts of the brain that makes you want to feel tired. So caffeine's coming in, it's blocking those, so it's going to impair your sleep quality. My approach with caffeine is to recommend to clients to have 1 or 2 before 12 if they are someone having a lot more than that. I don't recommend necessarily putting it in just because, but bringing it right down, having it earlier in the day so your body has time to metabolize it before you go to bed. If you're thinking, but James, I still drop off to sleep fine and I have a lot more caffeine than that, then that caffeine is going to be impairing the sleep quality. So even if you can get off, you might not be getting that same quality sleep cycles that we're looking for to help get you recovering. I like to think about caffeine as a performance aid. So bringing it right down and then targeting key workouts and having some before that and thinking, actually, I'm going to suddenly get the benefit of caffeine instead of having me in a caffeinated state as just my norm. Drop that down, and then when you have caffeine, you really see and feel the benefit. So caffeine is something that we're going to potentially bring down if that applies. Go back to my black pen. Food timing. So to improve sleep quality, timing, is that the English spelling, American? Not sure. What we need to do is bring the timing of our last big meal earlier. So if we're eating one like very soon to when we go, 1 hour or so before we go to bed, our body is still going to be digesting, metabolizing that, and therefore it's going to impair our sleep quality. It's going to increase our heart rate, so there's more blood flow to the gut. We want to really lower things down when we're sleeping so that our body can go through its rest and recovery processes. So bringing food forward to about maybe 2-3 hours before we go to bed is going to allow your body time to digest that to improve your sleep quality. Number 4, fluid intake. Well, that's meant to be a D. Fluid intake. So if you are someone who is having to wake in the night to go for a wee, then we want to address this because that is something which is impairing your sleep quality. Ideally, we want you going all the way through. If that's happening, instead of saying, oh, well, just immediately stop drinking before you go to bed, let's think about why you need to drink a lot more in the afternoon, evening. Probably because you're not drinking enough earlier in the day. So start considering a bit more fluid intake earlier so that you are able to drink to thirst in the late afternoon, evening, which your thirst signals will then hopefully be a bit lower, meaning that you're not needing to drink quite so much before bed and go to the toilet during the night. Number 5 is alcohol. Alcohol. So alcohol impairs sleep quality. We want to be looking to bring this right down so that we can get off and have some really high quality sleep. If you're someone who really likes to have a drink and you're like, James, that's a non-negotiable for me, then my recommendation would be to bring it a little bit further forward in the day. So instead of having it right before you go to bed, have it with dinner, or potentially even earlier than that. Have it as like a pre-dinner so that you can still enjoy that drink mindfully, but it's not going to impair your sleep quality quite as much because you've had more time to digest and metabolize that. Once we've looked at those things, we then need to look at more food-specific ones. So with recovery, something I see a lot, I'm going to use my black pen, and this is more true of the type of client that comes to me, under fueling, because they're probably very interested, or this might be you might be looking to lose fat mass. And all you've been told is eat less, train more, energy balance, come on, work harder. Which has unfortunately resulted in this. Maybe you're into ultra sport and actually you're very mentally strong. Maybe you're keen to push on, and this is why you're in this spot of not recovering well, because you're working hard. But we're not necessarily putting in enough food at the right time. And I'm aware that this is a really scary place to be, because if you are not wanting to put on additional fat mass and someone on YouTube is saying, hey, you just got to eat more, that'll fix it and then you'll lose weight. That sounds very counterproductive. So let me try and explain it. When we're under fueling, our body is craving out for energy at the right time. It's in a bit of a stress state because you've now potentially been doing this for a prolonged period of time. And the way to help you work out if you have been doing this is if you feel like you've been eating in an energy deficit for ages, or you barely eat any food, you train hard, and yet you haven't been able to lose weight. If that's ringing true, then let's start to do a couple of these little strategies. We want to address this. How we're going to address this is something that I want you to address if you feel like you're doing this or not. So we're going to look at protein. Okay, I've said these numbers before. 2.2, I think I may have said 2 before. 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So if you are, should have done this to make the maths easy. If you are 80 kilos, 2 grams per kilogram, 160 grams per day. If you are somewhere in this range, you are doing a lot for your recovery. Now, we don't necessarily always have to be hitting 2.2. We're not going for 5 gold stars or A+. We're not trying to be regimented and strict. We're just trying to consistently 6-7 days a week get into this range. If we can do that, we're giving our body a lot of signals to recover. So protein is important, and I often find that people who are under fueling may be getting this right, they may not. It kind of splits into 2 groups. We've got the people who are doing everything for their recovery, but it's only focused on protein, in which case they're having this or more. And there's the group that really struggle with protein, who are maybe getting 1 gram per kilogram, in which case upping it into this range consistently is going to be a big, big help. So apply that information to yourself. A resource that I'm going to give you. So if you look in the notes from this video, there'll be a PDF download. It's High Protein Foods Cheat Sheet, so that you don't necessarily have to log. You can start to eyeball food. Again, increase your education, improve your knowledge on protein. The second one we're going to look at is carbohydrate. Now this is the one which is often low across the board. So if you're under fueling and you're nervous about increasing carbohydrate, I want you just to start by focusing on the before and after your training sessions. And think about it like your body is a car. So you're gonna be using some petrol for that intense bit of exercise. You need to put some petrol in the car. You're then using that petrol, so you need to put some back in to allow you to recover from that training. It's not just protein that's gonna allow you to recover. We also need that carbohydrate element. And actually, the bigger picture here is we need food, we need calories, we need total energy. So where that total energy comes from is going to be both protein, carbohydrate, and fat. So we need some fat as well. For more information on this, there's a video I also have on my channel which goes into a lot more depth. I'm aware I'm skimming it a little bit now. Fat. Again, because I want to make this specific to you, I want you to critically think about your habits around high fat foods. If you have lived in the paradigm which was low fat everything and you have to buy only low fat foods, it may be that actually you eat a very low fat diet. And if that's the case, I would recommend introducing a little bit of additional fat to your diet. So that may be a handful of seeds or nuts onto things like porridge or salads, extra virgin olive oil, a little drizzle of that. Increasing the amount of omega-3 rich fats. Omega-3, yes, that's what nutritionists always love to talk about. This is a lovely molecule for recovery because it helps make some of your like red blood cells, it makes them a little bit more flexible. So if they're going around your body transporting things which are helping with your recovery, we want them to be malleable so they can get right through all the capillaries. So omega-3 rich foods, to help you with that, we're talking SMASH. That's the acronym, SMASH. Sardines. I bet no one eats sardines. They're a really cheap, tasty way of getting some really high quality protein that's also rich in omega-3s. Tins of sardines, great. One's in tomato sauce, oh, love it. Mackerel, you're probably thinking, right, can I work out the others? Mackerel, if I can spell it, thank you. Anchovies, eyes. Salmon, classic. And herring. And then we've also got trout, but it doesn't fit my acronym. Building in some of these weekly to your diet is going to help you bring some really high quality fat to your diet. Now, once we've looked at those bigger picture elements, other things you can do from your diet nutritionally, it's more of the micronutrient standpoint, okay? So this is where I want to introduce nitrates. Hopefully you can see that, nitrates. What nitrates it's a vasodilator, nitric oxide. What a vasodilator is if you think about your capillaries as an example, it's gonna make them a little bit bigger. So it's gonna mean that there's more blood flow going to your muscles, allowing your body to transport all these elements that we're talking about here to get to your muscles for recovery. So if we've got more efficient transport, it's gonna allow for a more efficient recovery. Now, instead of saying, hey, you've got to go and buy the latest supplement to get your nitrates in, let's look at food. So we're talking celery. Yes, celery. We're talking spinach, rocket, kale, cress. I mean, I'm pretty much listing, oh, forgot the main one, beetroot. If we start getting these into our diet, some sort of high nitrate food most days, we're going to start increasing our vasodilation. We're going to give our body what it needs to circulate all of this good stuff and start bouncing back from training again. The other thing, which I now realise I haven't allowed space on my board for, so I'm going to rub something out. We're done here. you've already nailed your sleep. You've remembered all of that. The next thing, antioxidants. Okay, antioxidants, you're thinking, fantastic. Can I get that in a Tupperware? No, we're looking at it from food again. The way antioxidants work is it's like, it says it in the name really, they're antioxidants. So oxidants are actually like little baddies, I suppose you could call them. They're reactive oxygen species. So whenever we go through any type of stress, so a pollutionary stress, like let's say we breathe in some fumes, if those reactive oxygen species end up in our body has antioxidants inside us, but also the ones that we eat. We want to have those antioxidants to help combat the oxidants that are going to therefore allow us to recover. Now, probably a bad example because not everyone's trying to eat fumes, but what most people are trying to do is exercise. And exercise is a stressor on the body, so we increase our reactive oxygen species from exercise. We want to combat that with both our internal antioxidants, our endogenous, but also our exogenous antioxidants. And actually there's science showing that you don't want to supplement with antioxidants because then it blunts the amount that your body produces. But that effect doesn't happen when you get it from food. Yay, good stuff. So, fruit and veg. Oh my goodness. Fruit and veg. Very, very high in antioxidants. I am going to be more specific though, because there are some which are really good. So if you're currently if you're currently struggling with your recovery, then I'm going to suggest we target in a few. So, berries. Berries, fantastic antioxidant. I mean, remember when goji berries had their time as that superfood? Doesn't have to be goji berries. Strawberries, blackberries, blueberries. You can get those bags of frozen imperfect berries dead cheap. Put them in smoothies, put them in your cereal mixes. Get some of those into your diet. Doesn't have to be the expensive blueberries. We can get anything here in the berry form. Berries, stone fruit. Also very high in antioxidants. So we're talking plums, we're talking peaches, nectarines. Fantastic high antioxidant food. If we're trying to increase our carbohydrate around our training sessions, potentially get a couple of pieces of stone fruit and have them as a post-recovery as well as our protein element. Next one here, green tea. Okay, so yes, coffee is also fantastically high in antioxidants. Green tea is too. Green tea is a little bit lower in caffeine though, so it doesn't affect this quite so much. But having some green tea, 1 or 2 cups in the morning, is going to be a nice little antioxidant punch there. We've also herbs and spices. So if I was into marketing and creating a brand, really, herbs and spices, they are your real superfoods. Because they're so flavoursome, they're really high in flavonoids, that's a sign that they're very high in these punchy antioxidants. So using more of them in your cooking. Even if you're cooking fairly like 5 ingredient meals, that's okay. Just add some of your own herbs and spices to it. Bring the flavour, because your body needs these types of things. They're not just in there to give it flavour, they're in there doing something positive for your body. Okay, let's review here. We've got sleep-wake time, okay? We're gonna start focusing on that in a big way and then adapting all the other points that are specific to you. So if you're someone who's drinking alcohol late at night, we might make that change. If you are someone who is a caffeine head, we might think about bringing that one down. Try and put 1 or 2 of these into practice that is in relation to you and more specific to you. Underfueling. If you feel like you have been in that energy deficit for a prolonged period of time, be brave. Try and aim for this amount of protein and introduce a bit more carbohydrate before and after and just see how your body feels, okay? What should happen and what does happen with my clients is for about 2, maybe 3 months, actually it's normally a bit less than that, about 1 or 2 months, they'll go through a process of eating more and not putting on weight, which is very bizarre. And then the body starts to get it. And it's like, okay, I know that tomorrow, I'm not going to be forced to exercise really hard without the right fuel. So then the stress level comes down. And then if we are in a slight energy deficit, the body starts to let go. So that does happen. Fat, if you are eating very, very low fat, we're going to start prioritizing some healthy fats, some omega-3 rich fats, building in some of these if you eat fish. If you don't eat fish, I would potentially consider a high strength omega-3 capsule, so a supplement of sorts. If you're in this period of struggling with your recovery, introducing it might help. High nitrate foods, I didn't actually talk about how to do this practically, so we've got a bit of a list here and they kind of looks like a big salad. Now, if you're making that into a big salad, your salad doesn't have to just be super low energy. Everyone thinks salads just have to be green and full of lettuce and celery. Put a couple of these elements in, but then also add some slow releasing carbohydrates. So get some potato in there, put some mixed grains in there, have a high quality protein element. Maybe it's some smoked mackerel, throwing it in there, a little drizzle of extra virgin olive oil on top. Suddenly we've got a really mixed macronutrient meal that is full of nitrates. Antioxidants, if we can encourage building some of these into our diet, putting more berries, more stone fruit, potentially swapping out some of the caffeine drinks that we're having for green tea and having them towards the start of the day, introducing more herbs and spices, that is going to be a fantastic place to start for your recovery. And actually none of these strategies are crazy expensive. Start putting them into practice and comment below this video with how you're feeling and whether you're actually feeling different. Okay? I hope you've enjoyed this. Sorry, again, it's such a mess, but hopefully you stayed with me through that. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be putting out a lot more sport nutrition content for you.